I've been having a lot of fun with this series and I hope you're enjoying it too. Today is for the ladies who are working in a corporate setting or you have a more traditional job, but you're maybe thinking like, what if I turned a passion project into some side income or wanting a creative outlet for yourself outside of your corporate career? I brought on my friend Julie of P&W Designs because she's had an array of experience in everything from flipping furniture to MLM to creating digital products on Etsy. And now she's really honed into her design work that she is doing for creating an aesthetic vibe for brands. And it's just been really cool. So I will make sure that I leave all of the places you can follow Julie in the show notes. But this conversation is really robust and vast in talking about the time management tips for starting your side hustle or building your side hustle, how a side hustle or doing a passion project on the side isn't an enemy or isn't something that takes away from your corporate career, but how it can really help elevate and give you new life, which then pours in to your traditional career path. So it's not just about coming out of the corporate grind or coming out of the career that you love and that you maybe enjoy or that provides bills, whatever it is. It's not always about like, oh, I need to create a business. Now I'm an entrepreneur. But this is a really great conversation to maybe help you start to explore like, maybe you're wanting to have a passion project or why have a side hustle and how do I fit it into my busy schedule or what should it really look like? I think you're going to get a lot of golden nuggets from today's interview with my friend Julie Wenzlick. Let's roll into the show. Welcome to Living in Sync. This is a wellness and lifestyle podcast for ladies in their 30s. We've got a lot going on, and on this show, we're going to talk about it all. I'm your host, Joelle. If you're into health, wellness, fitness, beauty, fashion, business, career, time management hacks, organization, girl chats, goal setting, mom things, and everything in between, I hope this show supports you in whatever you need today. Let's dig into today's episode. Welcome, Julie, to the Living in Sync podcast. Not only are you a friend of mine, but you're also a number one Living in Sync podcast listener. So here you are on the show.
Thanks, Joelle.
I'm so excited to have you on here today because Julia has had quite the story, quite the experience. And as you guys have listened to other episodes prior to this one, you heard my entrepreneurial journey. I brought Julie on here because her story is unique and different, and she's also just in the midst of motherhood, working a corporate job, and having various experience with different side businesses, side hustles, as we hear the phrase on social media. So, Julie, let's literally dive right in as somebody, and they've gotten a little pre-intro on you,
Okay.
what you do, but why is it that having something outside of motherhood, the day-to-day, your corporate job, which takes up a lot of time, why do you think your heart just has always been led to having something else on the side?
I think for me, and it's interesting because I was reflecting on this before we joined, I think I've had something on the side, which we'll get into that journey for almost 10 years now,
Mm-hmm.
which also makes me feel old. And for me, especially in this stage of life, I feel like it gives me an identity that is unique to me, meaning I'm not just a mom, I'm not just a full-time corporate working America person, but I'm also somebody who can have a creative outlet. And even joking as I was a kid, I always said that I was equally right and left brain. And my corporate job is very left brained, which for those who don't know those definitions right away, left brained is like analytical, numbers, etc. I work in finance for corporate America, and right brained is the creative brain. And every side hustle that I've had has some sort of creativity tied to it. And it gives me the ability to show up as my whole self because I can feel both my right and left brain.
Yeah, so really it's essentially that something that has added your unique creativity, like you said, but it feels fun,
Yes.
right? Like you've taken on those side hustles where you're like, ooh, this would be fun. Ooh, that would be fun. Do you think that was intentional or do you think it was just something that was in the natural draw?
Probably more in the natural draw.
Yeah.
But it is. I look at them as hobbies that I just happen to make money doing, which is a
Mm-hmm.
great
Mm-hmm.
benefit, but a lot of it is a hobby. It's fulfilling me in some way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love that. So the next thing the listener's probably wondering is, okay, I've got kids, mom stuff, the mental load that comes with that, and running a household, corporate job. How do you really find the time to make the time for something you're passionate about, whether you're wanting to profit on it or not, intentionally or unintentionally profit on it or not? Where does the time come from?
I always caveat this that it has, for me, I feel like it has to come with a supportive partner. Because if I was a single parent, there is no way. Now, it might have happened. So my daughter is 5. It might have happened when she was a little bit younger and actually going to bed at a reasonable hour. But now she goes to bed between 9 and 9:30, and there's no way I would plug into my business at 9:30 at night.
Mhm.
So for me, it's clear communications with my partner about when I'm working on my business and then drawing boundaries. So 4 nights a week, I get between an hour and a half to work on my business, and that's his primary parent time that's then. And then one night a week, I take off, we do a family night. And even this summer, I'm going into it intentionally saying I'm not going to work from 8 to 3:30 on Saturdays, which is a very like specific time frame, but for those who really do enjoy pouring into their business, it can take over your life. And so for me, it's time blocking, which I've talked about on my podcast, and time management and being super intentional with the time that you're spending. And it's easy when you really love it. And I know that's a weird answer, but it just, for me, it's harder actually to allocate the time to other things when I just love doing it so much.
Right, and I'm the flip. So you guys are going to hear she's the one flip side of this, I'm the other flip side of this cuz to me, it is so easy for me to phone's done, put away, I'm disconnected, see you later world. I'm not thinking about work, but I'm putting myself in my shoes of when I was first dabbling into maybe I should do podcast production. And I think a lot of times women think it has to be a full on jumping off the deep end,
Hmm.
having it fully take over their every waking moment of their lives. Where I've seen many women, whether it was in my network marketing days or online business or mentorship and coaching, ladies take it one step at a time, and little by little, small steps over time lead to really big things. So for me, podcast production was just a few clients to
Yeah.
see if I liked it and to see if it worked. When it came to MLM, I was going to school at the time. I was working my job at the daycare that I had to show up for. So it was a little bit of time in the morning. Sometimes it was a little bit of time in the evening. And maybe, no, I didn't have an overnight success in any of my businesses from like 0 to 6 figures in this short duration of time. But the pace of which I'm working, the pace and foundations that I set in the process of building things over time. So, what I'm hearing you say is like right now, you're really looking at the scope of your life, your priorities, what matters to you. And then you're seeing it through the lens of, okay, where's the pocket of time for me to put time, energy, effort, creativity? Have that time be as much or as little as fitting for the season, and then letting it grow and evolve and not having it be something that is you've jumped off the deep end and now you need to like tread water and almost drown to keep everything and your head above water, right? You know what I'm saying by all of that?
Yeah. And especially with working full time and momming, I have to be very intentional about how I grow my business, right? I cannot take on everything and I can't, I'm learning, but I can't say yes to everything because I just don't have the time.
Hmm.
And so it also teaches me discipline in my business and understanding what actually quote unquote moves the needle. And that has been the same with every side hustle that I've had. It's been different decisions, but it's always been, does that actually move the needle? And if not, it needs to go away, right? For example, social media for me, I do show up regularly, but I don't my reels aren't perfect, right? My graphics aren't perfect. And I last week I was jealous of somebody who had this amazing reel. And that sounds stupid, but it was a branding reel and I absolutely loved it. Well, I found out she spent 6 hours on the reel. I don't have that kind of time, right? And I just have to accept that my stuff isn't going to be as perfect as the person who can maybe spend it full time. But it's giving yourself grace in that season too, that you're still showing up and doing the best you can with the time that you have.
Yeah. So we're really talking to and helping ladies right now that are like, maybe there's this thing I like and enjoy doing. I actually was just seeing a high school friend that became a mom and she has found herself back to painting. And
Yeah.
she is now doing her painting and she'll sell her artwork and create it into prints or whatever that go onto cards, and it's just really cool. So that's why too, bringing you on here to talk about this, because there is a variety of different options for ways you can have a side hustle, whether it's a creativity outlet or hello hi in this economy, like having some extra money to put into savings or whatever it is that you desire to do with that. It can come from something that you enjoy outside of your time, even if it's getting certified as a group fitness instructor, my friends. Like that was a small step that I took that got me out of my comfort zone. It was fun. I was getting paid. I was making a little extra money on the side. I had met a ton of really incredible ladies. Those really incredible ladies, some of them have evolved and been with me for various parts of my journey throughout the over a decade I've been in entrepreneurship or having something of my own, basically creating my own job for myself. And then really seeing it from the time scope of, even if it's just a little bit of time every single day, you're not a morning person, maybe it happens on your lunch break. I remember coaching so many ladies in MLM on building their business in
Over lunch.
yeah, 1 hour pockets of the day. And I get it. You're not waking up super early, you don't want to stay up super late, and take back 1 hour a your day, whether that's a lunch break, and knock it out. You're gonna see other people be like 0 to 60 way faster than you. But I can tell with the scope of things, the hindsight, the ladies who built in small, incremental, foundational ways withstood the tests of time because there was foundational pieces and portions where it just worked so much better than trying to be like, okay, I'm here and now I need to get there in super X speed.
The other thing I'll add, and this is going to be very specific to people probably in corporate America, but for me, it also allows me to stay in my corporate job, which sounds counterproductive, but I am somebody who's been in my corporate job for 11 years and I'm very bored in my career.
Talk about it,
And
girl. Talk about it, girl.
and I know a lot of people are kind of in their 30s and early 40s who are in a similar boat where they get bored in their career. They don't feel like I've hit like a growth ceiling. And I'm also at a point where I really can't move organizations based on my comp schedule. And so if I didn't have my side hustle, I would, my life or my happiness, right, would be so much less because I wouldn't have something lighting me up outside of work. And work is 40 hours of your week, right? And so for me, it just even allows me to retain and know that my corporate job isn't my whole life
Mm.
and I'm allowed to find happiness outside of it.
Yeah, that's a good point that even if you're thinking about doing something on the side, it doesn't have to be an enemy to your corporate job. Like it's not something that has to be like, oh, I'm doing this so I can leave my corporate career. Well, your corporate career is something and it's foundational in your life for whatever reason. And it doesn't have to be a threat to your career. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, but would you say it even helps enhance your career
Yeah,
or enhance you so that you show
enhance
up better?
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, is how I would put it, right? It again, it allows me to not focus on the negativity in my corporate career because I know I have something outside. And especially when you work a salary job, you show up, you do the good results, and it's not like you get paid more if you're performing great that week. But I know when I run a side hustle, if I show up and I sell, I get more out of it. So it's also like giving myself a little bit of a raise when I'm growing my side hustle.
Right, right. I could see that. I could definitely see that. And I even think to that element and aspect of if you're choosing something else that's not even in the same realm or vortex of what a corporate job would be, but let's say it's the painting example or becoming really into your health and fitness, and maybe you teach a group fitness class once a week. That's maybe just a small micro example. Realizing how that can enhance you showing up better in the workplace with more energy, more positivity, just an underlying inner fulfillment that feeds you, gives you more energy. So then when you're operating in your day to day, the things in corporate don't feel so life draining and depleting because you have this element and aspect outside. I remember when I first started my network marketing business, I was working at a fitness facility, and within what I was doing in my business was learning and growing. And because I was learning and growing outside of my job, it impacted my job, and I moved up in positions 3 times in a year because they saw me as such a positive, valuable asset. And while like mine were actually two kind of competing things, but I was showing up better because of the other. And so it just enhanced life cohesively in so many ways, personally, professionally, mentally, emotionally, physically. If we're just doing the same rinse and repeat, and not that your passions have to produce an income, but I'm talking to you ladies who are like, well, if I'm going to do something like this and it can make me money on
Right.
the side, like, why not? I think whether you're growing it to have creative outlet or see it as a business, I think it just can really enhance because over the course of this series, and I'm going to ask Julie this same question, is did you ever imagine yourself being an entrepreneur? And then secondly, why don't you go in and talk about all of those things, all the various side hustles that you've done?
So to answer your first question, no. I grew up in a household that both my parents worked quote unquote corporate jobs. My mom worked for the post office, my dad worked for the hospital, and both of them were in their same position and career for almost 40 years. And
Mm.
so they never changed employers, they never changed, they certainly weren't entrepreneurs. And my grandma was a realtor, but other than that, we have zero entrepreneurship in our family and never imagined it. College, I don't even think I heard the word. So definitely an accident. From a history perspective, like I mentioned, I have had something on the side for almost 10 years. And
What
where
was the
it's
first one? What was the first?
so the first one, before I had my daughter, I actually flipped furniture. And that I did for a number of years. And my husband jokes that I closed it down because, and candidly, it was just because it's tiring once you have a kid to then at night go like sand furniture. But
And
I
then I
did
would
that.
imagine, don't touch that. You can't do it with the
Yeah.
little, like, little hands around.
Yeah, it's physically demanding. But I did that starting probably back in 2014-ish timeframe when it was huge to do that. And I loved it. And again, it was just that creative outlet, right? I was able to take something for free, flip it, and then sell it on like Facebook Marketplace for a couple $100s. And so I still have that skill and I still do that for ourselves, but generally I don't do it like as a thing anymore. And that was the start, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was like full business, right? I didn't have an LLC. I didn't have all like the mechanics. It was just flipping things for cash. And then in 2018, I joined a network marketing firm with Joelle. Well, not with Joelle, you directly, but you were a part of it. And so that's how we met back in 2018-ish timeframe, which is a long time ago.
Hmm.
A- And I actively did that for a couple of years. And in 2021, I was sitting on vacation and trying to plan out my network marketing to-dos and my corporate to-dos, and I couldn't fit it in one planner. And I was really annoyed with having to track my network marketing to-dos in one planner and my corporate to-dos in another. And that's when I had developed my own custom planner to hold both tasks and both parts of me. And I remember talking about it on social media, and it just snowballed from there. So for a couple of years, I did custom planner work and physical planners. And I think what that showed me is that creative outlet side of things, right? My two favorite parts of that is A, the creative side of it, right? Getting to design something from scratch, getting to visualize the system that'll help a small business owner track their to-dos, track kind of their systems that they need for their business. And then on the other side of it, that's systems part, right? I'm very good at organization. I know Joelle has talked about human design on her podcast before, but I'm a projector. And it is insane how easy I can see systems and how easy I can see like the most efficient way of doing things. And so that was like the best compliment to having custom planners is really I worked with small business owners to create paper planners that were set up specifically for their systems. And that is still, I still have custom planner clients that do refills. I still work in that space, but what I would call the canned planner business, I've really taken a step back from it. And candidly, it's because it's an incredibly difficult business to run. Physical products have, if you're not ordering on 1,000 mass quantities, there's virtually zero profit margin. So I was taking time away from my family for that business has ebbed and flowed now in 2024. So you want me to get into that?
Yeah, and I want to just highlight and point out the aspects and elements of it was really just, and Julie probably had a harder time had a harder time settling into this. And as I've known you in your journey, like there's such a skill of knowing systems and how to streamline things and how to make a plan and how to do things. But when it comes to something like this and having a side hustle and working in a way that is aligned with your true passions and what God's plan is for your life, sometimes you have to be willing to be like, okay, well, I thought this is what my
Mm.
quarterly plan was going to be. And now I've got to shift and change. And I think what I'm wanting to highlight is that you had talked about the evolving from the furniture to MLM to seeing the design and the streamline and the systems. You also even had the aspect of Etsy store and all of that. And you
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
it really just comes down to the same thing I talked about with pivoting into podcast production. It was like I didn't know everything about it. It was just I was learning and putting into place, learning and putting into place. And sometimes what I did was cringe and sometimes, but it ended up being landing me. And now I know with you, Julie, you with where you are right now and like how you're even like you thought it was like planners was going to be the thing and creating all these custom things to now doing design work. Let's talk about that little path and transition in that point and then finish off with talking about what it is you're primarily focused on.
I think the doing it scared would be the theme. And I've told other people I'm working with even right now the same thing. I felt this little nudge, and I have told Joelle and I have had conversations about this as well. Just these weird nudges of this keeps coming back to me. This keeps being put in my face, right? Of back in the fall last year, I kept seeing design work on my Instagram. And obviously like the algorithms, right? So it's
Mhm.
like I pause on it and then it just keeps putting it forward in my face. But I took a Procreate course last fall for nothing other than I wanted to learn how to draw on Procreate. And that little course was a creative outlet, but B, it then all of a sudden gave me the confidence to be like, wait a minute, I think I could do this.
Yeah, like you started being like, I can design this for you and that for you, and reaching out. And then it really became refined and polished of, I like doing this type of design work.
Yeah. And so in 2024, I not only have grown in the confidence of helping with social media templates, right? Because some people want to show up with pretty social media, not everyone, but some people want to have things that match their brand and want to have it look curated. And I just have a natural eye for, again, that right-brained, pretty design work where I can just see it. But my ex not my expertise is really in line drawings. And I have already figured out that my brand style and the way that I work and the way that I like to see things is line drawings, which for those who maybe aren't in the graphic design world don't know what that is. But taking, let's say, a picture of somebody and drawing it in, so they're like line outlines, right? So every single graphic design work that I've done has had some incorporation of hand drawing to it. And not only do I love doing that's my favorite thing to do to wind down at night and it like calms my brain, but it just creates such a unique look to people's brands. And so this year I had a friend really started with one of my friends who I had met, knew that I had an eye for design, and she reached out to me, had shown me a picture of a mock-up of her logo, and I immediately was like, okay, I could make this better, right? I love the idea, I love the direction, but I want to make it better for her because I know that it'll just give her so much confidence in showing up with her business. And so I asked her, I was like, hey, can I put together a branding for you? And she was all in. And from there, it's similar to my custom planner journey where it's just snowballed from there, right? Where people have seen that work and then they've reached out and it's given me that start messy and get better, right?
Hmm.
My first one
Hmm.
was a one-page brand profile. Well, now 2 months later, I already have a 20-page brand presentation workbook that I walk everyone through when I do my graphic design work. And it just, it's the same, it's the same results of helping small business owners make things pretty, but create systems where they can show up uniquely them. And
Hmm.
that systems is their brand work, right? It's their graphic design work, it's their social media templates, it's their website refresh, it's all the aspects that go with that. It's the same thing. It's helping them create systems, but just even more robust from a pretty perspective, is
Yeah.
how I look at it.
Yeah, and I'll leave links to everything to see Julie's work, and she's creating content on social media that portrays that as well. And for those of you listening, what I hope is just like lingering in your heart and mind, where it's 10 years ago, Julie, who was flipping furniture, getting things off, like finding furniture for free, then flipping it on Marketplace, she didn't know like design work was down the road, but it was that one spark. And so, what I'm wanting this series to be is for those of you who are like, this is interesting. Maybe this could be something I could do with my painting, my love of group fitness, or whatever it is, and not having it be like what social media is saying to do for a side hustle or to make extra income or whatever it is. But you just never know where your path is going to lead you. And I think there's a lot of information going around for the online entrepreneur, the stay at home mom. But what I think and why I would even direct you to like Julie's podcast, Julie's social, she is doing this alongside and outside of a corporate career that's like a cornerstone.
Yeah.
Like it's a cornerstone in her life and in her business and or in her home and in her finances and all of that. It's something like her passions, her side businesses are alongside of that. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on to talk about this unique journey, because we gave 10 years in the scope of 30 minutes, which seems lightning bolt fast. But you and I both know, like, even within the 5 years, things have just shifted and twisted and turned, but you're seeing how it's been an incremental elevation since.
And if you have, I've never truly felt what I would call God nudges before until the graphic design work. And that's been something that if you feel like this weird gut intuition that this is what you're supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
that is something that I would never have been able to understand what that felt like before until now. And I've told Joelle this too. It's just like this weird, this feels right. And all of the last 10 years have been baby steps towards this because I wouldn't be able to run a business if I didn't have the experience in my network marketing and showing up on socials or running groups, or even my planner business of talking to small business owners and the sales aspect of that. And it's just one little step at a time.
Yeah, so great. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'll leave the links for everything where they can find you in the show notes, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you loved what you heard or you want to share your favorite episode topics, please leave a rating and review. This helps the podcast growth and gives people an idea of what the podcast is all about. Something new and exciting that I wanted to share with you before we go is that we now have a Patreon page. This has replaced the Feminine Edge collective community in a cohesive place that is easier for me to manage and cheaper for you. If you are interested in our monthly classes, exclusive day in the life vlogs, Bible studies, community Q&A, and more, go to patreon.com/livingInSync and join for just $5 a month. Check out the show notes for any links or details of things referenced in today's episode, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next one.